Now we look at how social development perspective influence the development in developing countries since the Second World War. So since the Second World War, we have social welfarism in the north and nationalism and independence movements in the south. So in the 40s and 50s and 60s, while West or the Western European and North was working on increasing social welfare to its people, most of the South was fighting for independence. So there was not much concern about social welfare at that time. After independence, of course, there was this thought of that local people are now in control, so they will benefit the other people more, and they will not let money go to distant countries. Because of the lack of expertise available, lack of educated people available in the private sector, and lack of, in some cases, lack of even the private sector available, most of the focus of development was state-led. So if you look at Pakistan, there were only a few factories available in Pakistan, very few industrialists. So if Pakistan wanted to develop industry, of course it could not wait for private sector to develop. State had to take care or step in to industrialize the country. Most of these countries were very poor, illiterate, and with low expectancies of health. Of course, because of the fact that colonists took all the money away and didn't care about local people. So only a small fraction of people benefited under colonists. Industrialization led many countries, focus on industrialization led many countries to look at the Soviet experience, because most of the Soviet Union was not industrialized when the Russian Revolution came in 1917, but the state under Stalin focused on industrialization and very rapidly industrialized the country and made it literate also. So that experience led many people to again focus on the state and how it can help. There was this 5-year plans in Pakistan history. When you look at Pakistan's economic history, you hear about first 5-year plan and second and fifth and seventh. So all these 5-year plans are actually taken from Soviet Union, which first came up with 5-year plans. Then, of course, gradually the poor countries realized that they cannot become developed without the help of the Western world or international institutions. And these help came primarily for many countries, it came from the US, but UN also helped bring up many countries toward development. And the main ideology or perspective of which UN promoted was social development. So it was different from social welfare in the sense that it was the linking of social welfare with strong commitment to economic development. Initially, the UN focused on social work and community development. It thought that these two will help to improve social conditions in poor countries. Later on, there was also a focus on macroeconomic fundamentals, and there was this idea that there should be central planning agencies in the 1960s. And if we see the history of Pakistan, we see that the Planning Commission of Pakistan was formed in the late 50s and was at the pinnacle of its power during the 1960s under Ayub Khan. In the 1980s, the policy changed, and then the focus was neoliberal ideology, and the state, instead of providing services, became somewhat an institution which is detrimental to welfare. So most of the state services were retrenched and budgets were cut. And there was this new approach to social development where the aid providers directly gave money to the NGOs and the CSOs rather than to the government, and thought that it will help increase the development. In the 1990s, saw a change from social to economic social to human development, such as the Human Development Index. And then we had the Millennium Development Goals given by the World Summit for Social Development. There were 8 goals and plan of action to achieve them. We can see them here. And then, but as we see as the world tried to see the progress, monitor the progress under the Millennium Development Goals, it saw that East Asia and China has progressed. They have decreased poverty, they have increased education and health, but many goals were missed in South Asia and Africa. And so then the world came up with Sustainable Development Goals, and these were different from Millennium Development Goals in the sense that they were more inclusive. All countries, not only developing countries, all countries were part of this Sustainable Development Goals. There was the issue of course, sustainability, and they were extensive. So instead of 8, we have 17 different goals. The SDGs 5 years have been passed, and they most of the targets are for 2030. Pakistan, of course, is still working on achieving them, and in many areas it's behind. For example, in health and education. So social development is an perspective which started in 4 countries in the south rather than in north.